Well, welcome to another carpool consultation. We're in London today, in central London, picking up some really important guests from St Thomas's Hospital, which is just across the river from the House of Parliament. And next to me is my partner in crime again, Angela Graves. Say hello, Angela.
Hello, everybody.
And today we've got some really special guests, and
we've picked up a couple of nurses, but they're not just ordinary nurses, let's face it. We've got the creme de la creme in the back. We've got the first heart failure nurse in the UK of distinction, Lynda Blue. Say hello, Lynda.
Hi.
And we've got London's finest nurse, Carys Barton.
Hello.
And Caris has been very brave today because she's a bit under the weather, but she's come out.
So the other thing is that's going to be very different here is that I've got to navigate myself around London without swearing. So hopefully we'll get round nice and cleanly with no bumps or anything. So we're going to start some music as well, which is the 4 tracks that that Lynda and Caris have. Yeah. So anyway, here we go. This is, what's this one? This is the Coming Arts. Okay, let's go.
A good Scotsman.
A good Scotsman. Well, there you go.
Jimmy Somerville.
So, Lynda, we'll start with you. So, obviously, heart failure specialist nurse extraordinaire. What are you up to at the moment, Lynda?
Well, currently I'm working. I'm employed by St Thomas's NHS Foundation Trust, and I'm working alongside Caris and other colleagues to support the heart failure nurses towards it's a wider integrated redesign of the total heart failure service across King's College, St Thomas's Hospital and the communities of Southwark and Lambeth.
That sounds a pretty good programme to be involved in, Lynda. So, obviously started as a heart failure nurse in Glasgow. How did that come about?
Well, I started from a sort of research basis. I worked with Professor Henry Dargy as a research nurse, and really was doing sort of lots of more of the research angle, but not so much patient contact. And I actually really missed the patient contact. So started to see some of his complicated patients in an outpatient clinic, and Professor Dargy and Professor John McMurray had written a grant application to look at could specialist heart failure nurse trained up manage people in their own homes, would that prevent hospital readmission, and they would be able to optimise it then, was it racing because it was pre-beta blocker days, and adjust, increase and decrease their diuretics within agreed guidelines. And very early, there's two of us involved in this randomised control trial because they were successful in getting the funding from the Chief Scientist Office and in Scotland. And early on, as there was 2 of us employed, it was very positive. It wasn't rocket science, just putting some investment in education and looking at medication. And as a result of that, there was funding across Glasgow, and it sort of spread across the world.
I mean, that is phenomenal because we've now got these hundreds of heart failure nurses across the UK who patients say they mean so much to them. And it's not just about the tablets, is it? It's not just about the devices, but it's just about everything that a heart failure nurse brings to a patient. It's just that we say time and time again, don't we, the holistic care, and that is just phenomenal. So for you, Lynda, obviously being in from the beginning, how do you see the development of heart failure nurses in the next 5 or 10 years?
I think there's so many advances in medical technology, medical research. So we're picking up very complex things that would have been diagnosed, and it's quite diverse heart failure. We've also got a very elderly population, so we're having increasing numbers. We have a very strapped NHS. So I see the role evolving, that it is very much like a kind of advanced practitioner role, with the heart failure nurse managing the more complex group of people, but really investing a lot of time in upskilling, an advisory capacity and education to upskilling our generalist colleagues. Particularly, if we want to keep these people in the community staff need to have quite a rapid response to expertise. So they are the sort of care coordinator and navigator for the patient. But if you have very large caseloads, you can't do both. And I think that there is definitely a need to work with our many of these people having other multiple conditions.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. So, and for you, Caris, what's your background originally?
Well, I'm now the lead clinical nurse specialist at Guy's and St Thomas's, and I cover the Southwark and Lambeth Community Heart Failure Service as well.
Right.
My background goes back to when this song was brought out, funnily enough, which is why I picked it. So quite a long time.
Okay.
Nobody Google it, please.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a long background. I've worked in Gooch at the Royal Brompton for a very long time, which I loved. I've been a sister in the cath labs at Bart's. I've worked for a long time as a heart failure specialist nurse across Hertfordshire and London. So I have a long cardiac background. Yeah.
Oh, so much experience in this car
I know,
today.
and we're also in at Westminster now, aren't we?
We are.
At Parliament Square.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go knocking, say more heart failure nurses, please.
There's old Winston Churchill up there.
Yeah, so he'd have wanted a heart failure nurse, I'm sure. So, for you, Caris, where do you see heart failure nursing going in these next 5 to 10 years?
I think Lynda and I are very much on the same page with this. We are managing more complex patients. We do have a growing population of heart failure patients. You know, basically heart failure is the product of most cardiovascular diseases. So
Yeah.
it is actually going up and up and up. We are going to have to work more with our generous colleagues, which I think is what we're doing with our project now, isn't it?
Yeah.
In
So
order to be able to
yeah.
educate, upskill and support them in the community so that we can keep these people out of hospital with better quality of life.
And I think a lot of patients would say, would you agree, Nick, that that's where they feel as though they want their care?
Yeah.
Out in the community.
Absolutely. Well, heart failure lives in the community.
Yeah.
The patients see the acute or the hospital as the garage where they get fixed, and
Yes.
you know they have to go out and live their lives 360 odd days of the year out in the home. Ooh. An ambulance, that's a new for carpool consultation.
We've not had one of
look
these
at that.
before.
Woo.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Okay.
Did you arrange that, Nick?
Well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what keeps you going? You've both got such busy jobs. What keeps you going? What keeps you getting up in the morning?
Well, it would be lovely to waking up naturally, but either my alarm clock, but mostly my cat. And if I don't get up, it just walks along all my furniture and things.
Yeah.
I actually find as I'm getting older, I'm busier. I am passionate about my work. I really, really value having this opportunity at this stage in my career to pull together my clinical experience and experience of service redesign.
Yeah.
I think it's an opportunity because clinicians who have busy caseloads and clinical workload, they cannot have the amount of time you have to invest. And I hope that from what we're doing with the redesign of this service across Lambeth and Southwark and two acute hospitals, that we can share a lot of this to other people across the UK, and so they can adapt what the work we're doing. So it makes me quite excited. So I feel I have an awful lot to do. I've got another year working on with Caris and our colleagues, and I'm really looking forward to next year, and there's lots to do.
So, it's the patient that's still getting you up in the morning, Lynda. The patient's yours.
Absolutely. We must make it better for them. We must make it better, and as you say, it has to be driven so that they can stay in their own homes as much as possible. There's always a place where they have to go into hospital.
Yes.
But you can maybe look at models where they really don't have to go in and stay these lengthy admissions away from their
Yeah, I
spouses.
mean, I think there's times when the patient is really glad to go in because they know they need to go in to get sorted out, don't they? And you, Caris, so is it the alarm that gets you pure and simple?
It is the alarm every day at 6 AM and my little dogs as well, so much the same as Lynda. But I'm very passionate about what we do, and it is all about the patient. I'm very lucky in the role that I have now, that I work with some tremendous people, and the team is fantastic, and we've got an opportunity to be very innovative now and make a really big difference to our patients. And as you said earlier, Angela, they really are very appreciative of what we do.
Yeah.
Heart heart failure nurses, you know, they become a really important part of these people's lives, and we create such wonderful relationships with our patients, and that's really important. And it is about the holistic care.
Yeah.
It isn't just about, you know, am I only dealing with the heart? No, I'm not. I'm dealing with a person and their life, their families,
Absolutely.
their work, their futures, you know,
Yeah.
and that's a real privilege for us.
So with so much experience as heart failure nurses, what would be your top tips for patients living with heart failure?
I think you have to give people help them to manage their condition where they can. Give them the tools, support them, be available, or have a contact point. Get them to understand what their condition and their management, how they can help themselves, what they can do, how to it's not just manage it, monitor and manage it. Be able to have, you know, sort of like the traffic light system that Pumping Marvellous have, this alert, just simple things to let people just understand what they can do, because when you do feel unwell, it's quite hard to think what you're wanting to do. So I think helping them to self-care, but also understanding when they can't self-care, just also knowing who and when to contact. I think that's a great help, especially if you become unwell quite acutely. So I think it's understanding, and also understanding what the patient wants from their life, so they are aware of their limitations. You don't want someone to feel guilty because they can't do some exercise program. It's about, yes, that's great if they feel able, but as we know, heart failure patients have good days and bad days. So it's, you know, they need to pace themselves, and if they can't do it, not to feel a failure. I think it's just it's to build that support. They go to clinics and they're there for a very short time. So I think it's the backup information you need to prepare them, help them to stay home.
I think that's. I think a lot of patients would relate to that. Do you, Nick?
Yeah. I also think the challenge is how do we engage the people that sometimes, you know, may not see the benefit of self-management, and you know, how do we do that as a set of stakeholders in the heart failure conversation? Because, you know, some patients will just pick it up and run with it, and other patients won't. And, you know, how do we help the patients that maybe it's not won't, but maybe, you know, need to believe a little bit more in self-management, and, you know,
I'd understand, isn't it, what's expected, because especially we have a lot of people who have been used to clinicians telling them exactly what they have to do, but then for them to take full ownership of it, you need this as a culture and help them, support them with that.
I think you're right there. I think it's right for the patient, and dare I say, I think that's right for the NHS. I think so.
But we need to invest in this side of it. So
we do need to invest in this side of things, I think, and I think the patient will feel the benefit, the NHS will. What about you, Caris? What's your golden tip?
Well, without repeating everything my colleague Lynda has just said, because I'm completely on the same page with her, if there's one piece of advice that I would give people, if you're one of these people that has good days and bad days, learn to pace yourself, because it's really tempting on those days, you know, when you're having a really good day, to go out and cut that lawn or fix that fence or paint that wall. And patients tell me time and time again, when they do that and they overexert themselves in that way, they can lose 3 days the other side of it.
Absolutely.
If you are somebody that manages good days and bad days that way. So I'd say learn what your limitations are. You know, and on a good day, as tempting as it might be, try really hard to stay within them. We were talking about, Nick was just saying just now about how, you know, it's important to self-manage. Absolutely it is, but I think that's something where Pumping Marvellous is really useful as well, because I think there's sort of peer type support from people that are living it, knowing it and understanding it, to say, you know, I've done this and this has helped me. I think that could be I think that's very, very valuable.
Yes.
Because it's all very well with me as a clinician saying, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you should do the other. What do I know? I'm not living with it, you know. So I think that's really important, that support.
I think it is. I think we often say, as clinicians, we may be experts in the condition, but it's the patient that's the expert in living with this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think their families is really impacted. And I think a very key thing in heart failure is some of these people look very well, and they're actually feeling embarrassed that they can't carry a
a real point there, that it's getting people. How do you get people to accept that there's a different them? That prior to diagnosis they may have done lots of things. Oops, keep your hand on the wheel. But you know, that's changed now, and what does the new normal look like for them, and how do they manage the things that they took for granted, and everybody takes for granted, like walking up a hill, or walking some distance, or doing shopping, or picking the grandchildren up, or whatever. How you know, that's a real question for me, is how do you get people to sort of,
and importantly, how do you help the people around them to understand that?
Absolutely.
Because it is quite invisible. You know, you're not walking around with a crutch or in a wheelchair, or you know, there's nothing visible to see that this person has this. And I hear that a lot. As Lynda was talking earlier about the gentleman goes to the shops with his wife, and the wife's carrying all the bags, and everyone's looking at him like, why are you carrying your bags for your wife? You know, it's a really difficult thing to have the people around them adjust as well.
it's a self-conscious image thing, which people, you know, it's pride.
We're hoping through this, the work that I'm doing with Carys and our colleagues, it's got lots of strands, and it encompasses psychological support. It doesn't have to be complex psychological support. It can be just making everybody, including whether it's the receptionist in a clinic or everybody, just people understanding how to treat people when they go. I think in the cancer world they've been very good at that. So I think about meeting the sort of psychological.
And I think there is an element of they are a new person in some respects, but you know, deep down they're still them, and they've not lost that.
They're no different from you or I or anybody.
Or what they used to be. Their core is still there. It's just adapting to these challenges that they now face. But anyway, let's talk finally about the wonderful music we've had playing. So Lynda, your choices.
Well, I've chosen Rod because I really love Rod Stewart, but also I like the Celtic bit of it. It's Scottish, it reminds me of Scotland. But I thought that the title was quite fitting for what we're doing, you know?
Yes, indeed it is.
And my other song, Elton John and Kiki D, Don't Go Break My Heart, well, that's just my karaoke number.
Oh dear.
Oh, I'm making a note of that. I
am not singing.
I think
you would really regret it. You would regret asking.
No, would be happy singing.
I think a bottle of Prosecco at some stage in a little karaoke with Lynda is called for.
I've got a very long memory, Lynda.
What about you, Caris? What's your track?
Well, I picked the Communard because this reminds me this was #1 in the month and the year that I started my nursing, which is my passion in my life. And it was a very long time ago, not quite like with Florence, but long enough.
Not as long
as me and Lynda.
Well, probably.
Well, I'm exempt from that, aren't I?
And I also picked Taylor Swift, Shake It Off, because I just think sometimes you just got to.
So we've got some real great insights there from Caris and Lynda. You know, we should mention that Caris was a Marvellous Awards winner as well with us.
She was indeed.
A national recipient of Marvellous Awards, and the fantastic work that she does for people right across the country, to be honest with you. But she does work specifically around the Guys in St Thomas's area. So, you know, fantastic insights, and
we're producing,
we're producing this for Heart Failure Awareness Day, and we're going to be saying goodbye to them now. So if there's anything else we need to talk about, because we're stuck in traffic.
We've got a couple of minutes just to get into the car park, and then these very important people can go back to being very important people.
Correct.
But I think we do need to say a big thank you from Pumping Marvellous to Lynda and Caris, not just for what you're doing for patients, but for everything you've done for the charity as well, because when we get stuck we turn to you too, and you've been so good at
been marvellous.
They've been absolutely
absolutely pumping marvellous.
They've been marvellous. And we're even going to deliver them straight to the door.
To this marvellous hospital.
To the marvellous hospital in this marvellous city.
But we're actually, just so we don't get in the way of anybody, we're going to drop them by the incinerator.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so
And,
much.
Thank you for having us.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
So that's the end of
all the passion and
that's the end of our carpool consultation. So until next time, where we'll probably have a lot of other special people talking. It's bye from us, and bye from Angela, and bye from the two ladies in the back.
Bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye.